Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I'm Ray Orsini, and joining me as always, Mr. Matt Topper. We're the hosts of MSP Community Live, where we talk about all the cool stuff that happens in the MSP space for the past week and what we're planning for the next week. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well. Kind of wishing there was one more day this week. I don't know about you.
I mean, it's nice that we have absolutely nothing going on next week, so it'll be nice and easy.
Yeah, super quiet. Really not anything busy or anything to plan for or anything like that.
And I want to say thank you for covering for your appearance yesterday on the Tech Bar little mini pre-show that we did. Well, I didn't do. You guys did. You, John Harden, Andrea Barrow, Alex, and Danny. That was fun. I did watch it last night. Even though I couldn't make it, I watched it last night when I got home from Disney. So thanks
That
for
was a
that.
lot of fun. Except, who makes the word dog when you were talking about canines
Dude,
for
I saw
warriors?
that. Oh man, that was a lot. And there was that one time that Alex said dog 3 times in a row, and I was like, "Oh, shit, they're gonna be plastered before the end of this."
Right? It's a good thing it was only an hour.
Yeah. If it was 2 hours, we'd be, doing this from rehab at the you know what I mean?
We'd
Not
be
to not to
like
make any
scrubbing
light of
YouTube to
alcohol.
delete the
Y
recording if it was 2 hours.
Yes, yeah. Whatchamacallit? Yeah, that, it was fun, though. So and actually, I have the box here that, John shipped me. I'm gonna do since he shipped me Pellegrino, and it's supposed to be with bourbon, I decided I'll probably wait till 12 after we do this show for me to do the video of it, because I figured
Well, the
drinking
question
before the
is,
show is probably not great.
are you in an airport now? Because then it's okay.
Oh, that's true. Airport hours, it's always 5 o'clock, no matter what time. Maybe
Exactly,
I'll just go to Miami
exactly.
International and then just drink there, and
Yeah.
like, "Why you bring your own Pellegrino?" It's 'cause I'm cool like that, that's why.
Right. There's a
So,
story here.
yeah. So, we have speaking of stories, we have some stories, as always from Reddit, and we appreciate you guys in the chat. If there's any stories you guys wanna cover, let us know. Uh, but otherwise, let's see what we have here on the Reddits. Were there any
Unless it's
stories that
which
you,
PSA to use, then we won't cover it.
Oh, that's the first one we're gonna cover, of course. Um, and of course, you have no strong opinions one way or the other. So,
Yeah, of course, unbiased.
unbiased, unbiased. No, I
So
thank
no,
you for
I
your
have
support of Halo PSA. We appreciate it and Tactical RMM.
oh man, tactical RMM.
Yeah. I'm just gonna call this out. If you message me on Reddit, I apologize. I'm notorious for not checking my voicemails. Um, but Discord's probably the easiest way to find me. I always find like 10 or 5 or 10 of these people that reach out to me on Reddit, and I'm like horrible about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a
Um,
step further. If you message me on Reddit, don't.
I mean, it's not like you're not easy to find elsewhere. You know what I mean? I mean, you're
Right,
on
there must be
MSPG,
100 ways
you're
to
on
get in touch with me. That's the worst
yeah,
one.
yeah. Says the 2 Reddit moderators. You gotta
Well,
you
if you
gotta
post
love that part.
something, if you want our attention, post something that warrants getting removed, and then we'll find it.
There you go. That will find in me, and Kelvin beats us both every time. Um,
I know
all
he's a
right, let's do
robot.
this, because this drove me nuts because this isn't new. This is like when NCE we were getting those posts a year after NCE got implemented, the first, second, third, seventh time, whatever. Um, and people were still surprised by NCE changes. At this point, GDAP's not a new thing. Kelvin posted, others have posted. I know Nick posted. We pinned it for a long time. Are you still seeing MSPs? And I appreciate MSP Automator posting this, but are you still seeing MSPs that are unaware of the GDAP changes?
Oh man. Yes.
Calling people out now. Yeah, no, it's I get it. MSP is a hard life. There's a lot to track. There's a lot to you know, be aware of. Microsoft relationships are kind of one of the major ones, I would think.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think that we're seeing very many MSPs who would be seeking out information on Reddit to begin with, who this is news to. I think this is one of
that's
those
true.
cases where the messaging is probably not getting to the people who need to see it. Like I was doing, I've been doing security events lately, and here we are, 2023, almost 2024, and we're still talking about you should start implementing MFA. I'm like, what year is that?
I love those. And then when Tony and I report on something or somebody covering for us reports on something on dispatch that could have been stopped by MFA, like it's almost every single time MFA would have solved the problem. And even with the 0 days, that require interactive access, most of the time MFA would have solved that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, so without totally derailing us into that conversation, it, the basics are missed, but I think it's the same problem. If you post on Reddit about the importance of MFA and other security basics types thing, I think it's to an audience that is not news to. We just as a channel, as an industry, don't have not yet found the magic way to get the word out to everyone for any topic, security or otherwise.
Yeah, and hell, Huntress did it. We actually did recording with Ethan Tancredi at IT Nation Secure, I want to say. Doing a special report about exactly this. This is not new. But yeah, you're right. There's the discoverability and announcement problem. Some MSPs are on Facebook, some are on Discord, some are on Reddit, some are on, Tech Tribe, some are on Tom Lawrence's forums. Um, just want to be real clear here. This is a very long and accurate and clearly defined list of stuff you have to do. Just want to be real clear. SIP has had an easy button for a long time. Um, it's probably as easy as you're going to get, and it does account for all of these things, thanks to Kelvin and the other contributors to SIP. Um, and if you're not using SIP, it literally costs nothing. Like, go use SIP or support them or do both. That would be nice.
Yeah, this is a
Um,
good post. I don't want to take
yeah,
away from the post by saying it's
oh,
redundant.
100%. Yeah.
I don't think the people who need it are going. We should do like a Super Bowl ad. That would do it.
We should. Yeah, yeah. Let's put the money together. It's what,
Enable
5 million for
MFA.
30 seconds. Yeah, yeah. We got this. We got this. How about this? MMN will cover recording and production costs. You cover the cost of the commercial, and we're good. Uh,
Yeah, there you go.
I think that
I'll
counts as a
hang like
connector,
a
as
green
promised.
screen in front of my TV and audience size of 1.
There you go. Um, Actually, it would be kind of cool to do MMN Super Bowl ads. Maybe we'll take that in consideration. All right.
They would be fun to make, like,
Oh,
obviously
for
not
sure.
air them, but that would be a fun, like, contest, make a commercial.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe we got something going on there. All right. Um, Thanks to Andrew from Huntress telling us about another active exploitation. This one's Apache Active MQ. I'm not going to go deep into this. This is just it's a CV. Be aware of it.
Yeah. I
Um,
read that post, it's good info.
yeah.
Read it and determine if you're exposed and have anything you need to patch and patch it.
Any oh, that was a TLDR, but
Oh, man.
um,
Yes,
in the
that's my
Matt
TLDR
Topper
on it.
on the Matt Topper 1 through 10 scale of, is this something to be aware of or is the sky falling? Where does this fall for you?
I don't think the sky is falling. And the reason I say that is the vast majority of MSPs or of end clients rather won't necessarily have anything internet facing that um, would be exposed to this. And it kind of
Yeah.
falls into that same thing we were just talking about. If you're the kind of environment that has like public facing stuff that's not some, like exchange, even then these days, you're probably not reading this post anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Um, this may absolutely be a shit post, but have you read it yet? I have not.
No,
Um,
so I've been traveling. I haven't read Reddit in like a week.
okay. This
So I
is
haven't
either a
seen
really
anything.
cool idea or a really bad decision. We'll see what happens. Fastest way to generate phishing alert tickets, switch the PSA's default ticket notification language to Dutch. Their PSA was creating tickets whenever an end user replied to an existing ticket. To eliminate the English notification templates as the cause, I switched default language to Dutch. Got pulled to another project, and of course, our PSA filtered out the Dutch. So our techs didn't know anything until they started getting tickets asking if we'd been hacked or forwarding ticket notifications. Um, Learned Dutch is close to German. Some of our end users do question suspicious emails, and that notification templates were not at fault. That's one way to
Oh,
do it. Switch it up.
okay.
Yeah. Um, I'm not going to say I've never made a change and manage and then been called away and completely forgot I made the change and then confused the rest of the company from it. That was also
Oh
the
yeah.
impetus for making sure all changes were tracked after that point. Because
Ye-
yeah, oops.
Or you
Um,
ever change a workflow or notification and suddenly send out like 10,000 emails out of manage? I have
I
definitely done that.
did that when we first enabled, I want to say our waiting client response workflow. Um, It
All the old
was oh,
tickets.
no, it wasn't that. It was when we moved to two-stage close. We did it fairly early, but because we had moved from Autotask to Manage, we had all our old tickets in there. We had synced them over. So when we added the two-stage closed and added the workflow, if it's completed, do this, it sent out I didn't put a if it was completed from this date on. So it sent all
Yeah.
my
Yep.
historical 10,000 tickets, notifications. That was fun. Um yeah, just learning moments, stuff you figure
We've
out as you
all
go.
done something like that.
Um, I'm gonna do the anti-normal thing for us, and let's answer a tech support question. Hopefully it's an easy one so we don't actually
Right? Are we
have
still
to do it.
qualified to answer tech support
I
questions at
don't
this
think so
point?
anymore. I really
We need to
don't.
have Kelvin on for this question.
Let's see. Question on GDAP for small MSPs. For MSPs that are smaller and have technicians performing 365 administrative tasks, how are you handling GDAP? Uh, Principal least privilege makes sense for when your text least privilege only is only a step below global admin by necessity. What can be done to protect against the risk of individual accounts? So I will tell you in the enterprise world, this is where custom tooling or orchestration tools come in so they can do the tasks that the tool lets them do, not the tasks the permission set lets them do in the whatever above platform. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and so we've been doing that on the networking world for decades. Because the last thing I'd want is somebody screwing up a switch config or router config, especially big iron, screwing up a routing profile at the carrier level. So we give them access to only do the thing they do. It requires custom tooling like SIP. Um, what about you? I mean, you've been through this. I mean, it's part of life for MSP.
E- So my advice, without knowing the specifics of what they're working on, yes, there are management tools and solutions out there, like you're referring to. But I think in general, I would say it's called least privilege, right? And you provide the least amount of privilege you can, and in some cases, that means quite a bit in order to get the job done. And so I would say, man, I can't speak today. Provide the least
We're
amount of
both tired
privilege
from
you can,
traveling, dude. It's okay.
right? And if that means a relatively high level of privilege, then maybe that's a limitation of the system. But you can't make that into something that doesn't exist. Now, assuming that you're actually doing GDAP, at least, and not trying to like log in with global admin creds or anything like that. But if the way you're structured and the tasks that you have to do require high privilege, then they require high privilege in absence of a way to limit it.
Yeah, I think this is a little easier if you have a true tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 architecture in your organization
Yes.
because those permissions become more strongly defined. If you have a more flat structure, and this is going to be more common for smaller, especially single operator, or if you only
Mhm.
have like a two-person, three-person tech team where everybody is everything, that's much, much, much
Yeah.
more difficult, you know.
There's nothing
Um,
you can do, right? I mean, if you have a
yeah,
tiered help desk, you can have the level one guys do things like create users and set passwords and things like that. But if anyone can potentially field a request to do anything tenant wide, then they need access to do that. And you either have a
yeah,
structure issue or you just deal with the inherent limitation of that structure and grant access.
yeah. It's funny how some things become easier as you get bigger and some things become harder. Um,
Right?
Permissioning and authorization, I think, are one of those easier things as you get bigger. The most difficult part of growing or scaling is undoing all the everybody has access to everything.
Yes.
Even 12 years later, we're still at the point where like some of my access is getting removed now because I don't need it. Like we just admitted, we're not techs anymore. I don't need to log into don't get me wrong, I love being able to log into 365 admin and make changes whenever I need to, but I also don't need that for my daily life. Like so it's
It's
tough, man.
easier until you get really big, and then half the battle becomes trying to figure out like who owns this thing to even ask for
Oh yeah,
access to it,
yeah. Or finding the person that does have access to it to get the
right?
job done.
Like,
Uh,
right, I have the authorization. I found out who owns it. Who can actually make the change? No idea.
yeah, and to drill that home, that was literally Facebook's problem when they got locked out of their data centers, when they had the outage. The people that needed to make the changes didn't have access to get into the physical data centers because previously they had no reason to be there. And that was a fun one. That was it's nice to see that at the global scale that happening to those companies. So like we don't feel so stupid when it happens to us. You know,
It totally happens.
yeah. All right. Ooh, one of my favorite things, FTC, FCC. I love these. Anyone have any clients affected by FTC safeguard? Last round we had dealership. Now we have two new companies, mortgage brokers to address. In June, we relied on SoxOder. They had a coaching program. Oh, cool. I didn't know those existed. Basically guided us how to complete the required audits, but they weren't certified to actually audit. Any other outlets, compliance services, so MSPs have used before that they recommend? Um, I have opinions, but I want to hear yours first on this.
By the way, if you're screen sharing, you're not screen sharing.
Oh, that would be helpful if I was. Thank you for that.
Or if you were trying to, at least. Um, Man, should we recommend a specific vendor? Because
No,
Tim's our
I don't
friend,
wanna
and that's who
recommend
I would
vendor. I wanna
recommend.
recommend process. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Um, so 2 things on this. One is make sure you really understand the requirements to bring a client through any kind of regulatory compliance. It's really easy to be the expert for them and accidentally not be the expert because you don't understand it themselves. So, from a process perspective, my big thing is seek outside help if you need it. That's my big messaging here, especially if it's a one off, right? Like maybe you
Yeah.
have a vertical that specializes in this, but if you just have one client, um, seek some guidance. You will probably mess something up if you just go and download the standard, and not just for the FTC, for any compliance
Yeah.
thing.
100%.
If you just go download the standard and try to do it on your own, you will probably get it wrong and result in a client failing the audit. Not that there is an
Yeah.
audit for FTC, I don't
No,
think.
there's not, but I was gonna mention that, that audit doesn't exist. Um, but with that said, I've looked at a lot of MSP websites. I've yet to see any that actually say audit on there, and for good reason. I'd probably be railing if I saw audit on there. You're not auditors as an MSP. Um, Stay in your lane. Now, facilitating the audit, 100% yes. We are the ones that have access to the information. We know where to look. We can provide it to the people, the subject matter experts. But that's a discovery thing. That is not a
Yes.
performing the audit thing. No different than PCI compliance, HIPAA compliance, GDPR, whatever. Leave it to the experts. Um, Now, to this person's question, they're asking for third party services. I haven't seen any for FTC Safeguard. Um, a lot of it is just archiving and having access to the data after the fact. Um, and there's some call recording rules. That's why it came up for us. Um, but I would say make yourself knowledgeable. I don't have a recommendation for a service itself. Uh, oh yeah, compliance. I should have mentioned Tim Golden. I should probably mention.
Right? It's okay, I
Um,
mentioned him briefly.
okay, yeah. So there you go. Yeah, compliance risk. Soon to be. They're announcing rebranding next week at IT Nation. Um, yeah, there's compliance risk. Hit them up. Also, SoxOder. I didn't realize SoxOder was doing that. That's pretty cool.
And the thing I would just
Um,
say in general is, right, even if, um, Tim or whatever vendor you work with doesn't have
mhm,
direct experience with that framework, they are much more likely to be able to translate and interpret it for you
yeah,
than you will, who's, doing your first one.
yeah. Because there's the practices required for governance are pretty universal. What you're documenting is going to change between frameworks and stuff like that. But I mean, would you agree like the practices of how to store, how to document changes, how to, how long to store, like There are details that change, but the practices are generally the same.
Yeah, for sure. Right. The safeguard, it's like the list of safeguards is different per framework, but I always get up on my soapbox and say your security program is not necessarily built around your compliance targets, right? You have a
Yeah.
security program. One of the objectives is to meet the compliance, but you have lots of other stuff that you have to do besides just whatever's outlined in that document, usually because it's scoped to specific portions or types of info.
Yeah. No, I 100%. All right, let's see here. We have I lost my first customer. I've been there. It sucks. Lost my
Okay,
first
that
customer.
first sentence though,
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive.
That is impressive. Um, I will say I take a very hard stance and I actually see this as a negative. So we're impressed. We're impressed for different reasons. I see that as potential negative. I'm a big fan. Paul Dipple talks about this, doing the ABCs with your clients, terminating the
Yeah,
C's, and reevaluating the B's every single year. Um,
top grading.
in the MSP, in the professional services world, now remember, I'm a VoIP vendor today. I'm not MSP today. In the MSP world, anything professional services, I think that is incredibly important because, especially if you're an ACE shop, if you're an ACE shop, anytime the customer calls you, it's a burden on that contract, and decreasing profitability. You have to have a threshold, or you should have a threshold for profitability for contracts, and the ones that go below, fix it or cut it off. Um, my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm definitely not telling anybody what they have to do. Um, but yes, there is a positive for not losing any customers in 13 years. And I'm grossly extrapolating here because this could be they've fired customers in the last 13 years. They've just never lost one.
Yeah, or it could
So
be like this is the first one that's his fault specifically, like
yes,
messed
yeah,
up
yeah.
something.
That's and in which case, damn, because I mean I screwed
Right.
up my first 6 months. I like, and I did it again with MMN. You'd figure like 8 businesses over multiple decades, I should be really good at this. And MMN's very first customer, we lost, and it was our fault, and it was my fault. It was not anybody else's fault.
It's
So
a
this happens
universal
every
thing,
stage. Yeah,
or
yeah.
almost universal apparently based on
Yeah,
this post.
almost. Yeah, we have the one guy we need to be looking up to. All right, it says, "Lost my first customer in 13 years of doing this. I worked for 3 MSPs over the course of 13 years. Never had a customer leave that I was in charge of." Okay, that's more to what
Oh,
you were saying.
okay, that's
Yeah,
different
yeah.
than an
Now I'm in charge
org
of the
never
entire
losing a
MSP side.
customer.
Yeah, it's not an owner. I mean, you lose customers. That's just life, you know?
Okay. I
Um
feel that this seems more realistic now.
Yeah, because of I'm littered with unrealistic job expectations. Because of this, the customer didn't get the attention they needed. I know it's not entirely my fault, but I'm still pretty bummed. It was a heavy hitting contract for us. We have very little revenue to start with. 3 years into load bearing clients, that's rough. Um, 3 years into this, the owner hasn't invested in sales, proper staffing, or literally anything else to make it successful. We have an outsourced help desk and a level 1+ tech to fill the gap, but it's not enough. I do everything from sales to management to VCIO to support. Giving my life to somebody else's business, I'm at my wit's end. I've decided to take my senior system administrator position with a local company. Pays more, probably has 1/8 of the responsibility. Okay, so this is a venting post. Um,
Wow.
any takeaways here? Anything you would have done if you were in this situation, based on the information you have, obviously.
Based on everything that I'm reading here, I actually think he did the right thing by letting this go. Um, it sounds like he's not an owner shareholder of the
Right.
company. It sounds like he's an employee trying to do too much, and at some point, if he was not able to advocate for more staffing or limited responsibilities, there's only so much time he can give. As not the owner, it's not necessarily up to him to save the client in this case.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. The one thing I didn't see here, which I would like to see in these posts, is that, that they talked with the owner and voiced these concerns and see what the owner's plan was for addressing them. Now, to be fair though, I'm going to give this person the benefit of the doubt because, like you said, I think they did everything right here. I have no reason to believe they didn't have that conversation with the owner, even though they didn't mention it. That's the one thing I would say. If anybody else's feet is experiencing a similar situation, And let's be honest, every tech, every employee thinks they know how to do the job better than the boss. And in many cases, they're right.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not that's not the problem. But just like we talk about in MSPs, in MSP life, any security training you're going to do is not going to have any effect if you can't get executive adoption. Well, in your personal business, it's exactly the same thing. You need to make sure your boss is on the same page as you. And if you can't see alignment there, yeah, it's a time to move on. It is what it is.
And
Um,
this is the total case of like, do as I say and not as I do. Because I would totally like have killed myself to try and save the client by working 100 million
oh
hours, and
yeah,
that is
that
the wrong
accountability.
thing
Yeah.
to do.
You're looking out for your own
Absolute
mental
wrong
health too.
thing.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I get it. Yeah, I think we're both in support of the OP with the information we have. Just it'd be nice. I'd love to see the owner perspective on that. Because I will say, as an owner, there's times we have perspectives the employee might not have. I will also say, as an owner, the employee is 100% entitled to that perspective, to that knowledge.
Yeah.
Your
And
your bosses
it,
can't be gatekeeping that.
agreed. It sounds like there's serious burnout here, and so from the owner perspective, it's if things got to this point, something was missed along the way here to let it get that far.
Yeah, so let me ask you that. Burnout is a constant thing we see on the in our sub. Um, we see it on sysadmin. It's different in sysadmin than it is here, right? Sysadmin is my predecessor was an idiot. Well, then again, that applies to MSP too. But you have the three
Every
envelopes.
predecessor was an idiot.
Every predecessor.
Just
I
like
even
every
told.
the guy who
Yeah.
owned the house before you was dumb, the guy
Oh,
who ran the
100%.
network before you was dumb.
I have the wall in my living room where my living room TV is mounted, goes up 95% to the ceiling, and it has these side pieces that go all the way up and then a little cutout. Why? I don't know. I imagine they had plants there at some point or something like that. That wouldn't bother me. However, the part that's cut out is not straight. So I can either have the TV aligned with the top of the cutout, or I can have it aligned with the actual floor. I can't have it even with both. That drives me bonkers. Um, to which we're just going to sell the house because at this point I'm not fixing that.
And then the
But
new buyer will say the same thing about you.
oh, he'll talk so much trash about me. Absolutely, 100%. That's just life. But what do you think we see the thing on MSP burnout of, the driver, the owners are slave masters, incredible ticket burden, poor management, taking needy clients. Um, is it that bad, or are we just seeing the echo chamber? Like, uh, you were in the MSP life, you talk to a lot of MSPs every day. I don't talk to that many in my daily conversations that are that burned out. So I'm curious what you see.
I I think we do it to ourselves. Um, exactly what we were just talking about. How you or I would put in a million hours to save this client, even if we weren't an owner or stakeholder in some way. And I think there's two types of burnout or two types of burnout stories that often get confused. Um, there's I have a real ton of stuff going on this week or this month, and it's just one of those crazy things, and you end up working 100 hours in a week. And working in tech, you will never get away from that, right? There's going to be the occasional really long night. Something blows up, and you have to spend 3 days or the whole week fixing it, and that's different than a systemic, not enough staffing kind of burnout. Um,
Yeah.
so my thought is that the short term kind of burnout is just a reality of the industry, and you should expect that going. Not saying it's a good thing necessarily, but it's going to happen. Stuff will blow
But
up, and
it's
you'll have to deal with
manageable.
it. Yeah.
It's not
The
impossible, you know what I mean?
right. The long term stuff is, I think, where the problems come in. And I think some of the posts we see though are from people new to the industry or just don't have that expectation set and are confusing. I had a really long, crappy week with I don't have enough people on staff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I've learned in my own life. I know as a business owner, I know my directors of the departments know what our ticket burden is on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. What's a normal month? What's a crazy month? We just came off of 2 crazy months, and this last month has been pretty stable. But the reason we're able to identify that is because we have the data. What's up, Tim? We were just talking about you, buddy. Talking about you as an expert in in, in compliance and governance.
Now that he's
Um,
here, no
yeah,
longer applies.
yeah, it no longer applies. I mean, obviously, you're spending your time watching horrible shows, um, but we appreciate you coming on, dude. Um, no, but like you're right though. Like I think the long term, I've been doing this so long, I'm burnt out. Is a lack of clear career development and planning. That is the boss's job. That is your job as an employee to talk to your boss about it and have your own preferences and your own opinions, but it's your boss's job to make sure that happens. Um, you know, on the new tech that comes in or the new employee that comes in and, maybe they're used to working at a Geek Squad or at, Radio Shack or, if we could
Right,
still find
right.
one. Um, you know, but yeah, absolutely do, dude. We were just recommending you. What you call it? You come in MSP life. MSP life is like boot camp, right? But it's like nonstop boot camp. It doesn't change from that. It is the chaos of war. Um, I personally love that. That's where I thrive. It's not
Yeah.
for everybody, you know. I had one
Now,
guy that came on and he was like, "Look, I don't like not knowing all of my clients personally, every single detail. I don't like talking to different people every single day." He was like, "I want to work with one set of people and we don't do pods or we've never done pods." So
mhm,
he went to the corporate life, and I completely get it. That to me
that's
sounds like a
fine,
slow
right?
death, but I respect that's his priority. So that's life.
So you said you've had 2 really busy, crazy months in a row. How long would it go on before you said, "Okay, now this is systemic and we actually have a staffing issue or there's some cause that we need to investigate?" Like, when does it become an anomaly or when does it become normal?
So we have opinions that we review or we have data review every month or I'm sorry, every year of this is how many tickets we should have per tech. Um, you can do a clients per tech, you can do endpoints per tech. There's a million ways to cut this up. We do tickets per tech. So because we have very specific guidelines as to how long each ticket should take. And so for us, 20 minutes a ticket plus 10 minutes of documentation, 2 tickets an hour. I know that's very slow for MSP. That's just the way we do things. Um, so we work 10-hour shifts, take an hour for lunch. So there should be 18 tickets done, right? 9 hours of work, 18 tickets um, for the average day. So I know if I have 5 techs, let's do 5 times 20 just to make it easier. That's what, 92 tickets. No, that's 90 tickets. Um, if I'm getting more than 90 tickets a day with 5 techs working, and I have it on a consistent basis for a couple weeks. I'm not going to do it off 1 week, 2 weeks. To your question,
Right,
probably a
okay.
month or more. That's when we start looking at it. We'll also start looking at the causes for those additional tickets. In our case, it was a combination of growth and we had some technical challenges we had to address. So we knew that the explosion was only because of the technical challenges. So that was temporary. So we staffed up using internal management to staff up in other departments. It didn't warrant hiring more techs. By contrast, we already have tech hiring planned out for the year because we know what we expect as far as influx of clients, how many new tickets that brings. We're pretty good in the ballpark of knowing that data. Um, I don't know any other MSPs that track that have knowledge of that data. And one of the things we're failing at is not making sure that the techs that are working know what that data is. So, hey
Yeah,
guys, we get
yeah.
100 tickets a day. That's normal. Today was crazy. Crazy actually
Mhm.
meant we received 200 tickets today, not 100 tickets today. So they can qualify it, so they can understand if it's data or feeling, right?
And the key to this, though, is that you're able to make many, or I won't say most, but many tickets deterministic time-wise, right? Because you know how long a change should take or a user ad should take or whatever. And I,
Yeah.
I guess outside of the problems that end up being the customer's own networking, of course, but everything else, you're able to say, okay, this is the expected amount of time. And
Yeah.
depending on the MSP, right, the changes in the ads can be like that, but the generic, this thing isn't working tickets, you just don't know. It could be 15 minutes to
So we do
2
though.
days.
We do because we have ticket triage and dispatch. So we have skills based teams. All right. So tier one,
Mhm.
tier two, tier three. We have very specific skills for each one of those, very specific access levels for each one of those. Because of that, we know the type of tickets a tier 1 handles, a tier 2 handles. So I can very comfortably say a tier 1 is going to be a 20-minute ticket. At 20 minutes, they escalate to the manager, give them this is the problem statement, this is what I've done, this is what I think we need to go to. So the manager can look and say, take another 20 minutes or just escalate it. Same thing with tier 2, same premise, except it's an hour. Tier 3, 24 hours because it's a little usually those are more bigger problem things,
Yeah.
and it's only 24 hours because it's usually worth collaboration on at that point. Um, the tier 3 are the fuzzy ones. Tier 3 and up, anything that gets to me, I'm tier 4. You can guarantee it's gonna be a couple days, if not a couple weeks, because I usually get the dev stuff, the bug stuff,
Yeah.
platform stuff that's longer.
But you
Um,
raised a key point in that you can have this kind of capacity planning by how long a tech will spend without even necessarily having to know how long the ticket will take in total.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it just makes it easier. So and this is something and we have dashboards and stuff like that and personal dashboards. Um, but one of the things I've always been cognizant of, to me, a tech looks at the ticket board, and if they see 60 tickets on the board, they're going to feel overwhelmed, even if they're only supposed to be working the same 2 tickets per hour, no matter what. And that goes back to that self burnout you were talking about previously of sometimes you just look at the whole picture, and especially when you can't solve it yourself, that becomes overwhelming. Um, so,
We've
talk to your
gotten
managers.
yeah. Like, we went totally off topic, but this is such a good point. When we used to do, um, assigned tickets as opposed to selecting the next one, guys would get so burned out when they saw their queue had, like, 30 tickets in it, as opposed
Yeah,
to, "You're done with it, go take the one off the top of the board instead of assigning it to someone." It made such a
yeah,
big difference in morale and stress level.
yeah. I was waiting for this comment. 50% for admin time. Ticket update seems like a lot. Um, Absolutely 100%. I completely acknowledge 2 tickets an hour, 20 minutes for a ticket, 10 minutes for documentation is a lot. It's very slow by MSP standards. Um, I'm a voice provider now. I'm not an MSP anymore. So our things are a little different. Our tier 1 tickets, because we're white label partners and they're doing troubleshooting on their own, our tier 1 are closer to a normal tier 2. Um, so when it comes to documentation, usually there's call routing changes, diagnostic network changes, stuff you would expect a tier 2 to document, which does take a little bit longer.
Mhm.
That's why we're designed that way. And this is off after 12 years of data, right? This is not like we came up with these things. Um, this was our way to combat poorly documented tickets, um, which is always a battle. That's never perfect, right? Um, but
It
you gotta make
it's
that space.
it's one of those issues that, like, yes, it is important, critically important to understand how much admin time your texts are taking. But on the other hand, there is no better way to ruin the relationship with your text than watching it in their admin time like a hawk. They will hate you for it. Like,
Plus
it's one of those things you just, if you harp on them too much, like, it just destroys any support that they have.
yeah, and there's some ancillary benefits too. I'm a big believer nothing should just have one reason. So internally to prevent burnout, I'm a highly scheduled person. I have meetings back to back to back. Um, Not very different than techs that'll work tickets back to back. You need breathing room. You need decompression time. It's either going to happen in 3 hours, 4 hours working straight, and then they need to take 30 minutes off to go breathe. I personally like to do it a little closer to the bone. I don't like to let it drag out like that. So my 30 if you schedule a 30-minute meeting with me, it'll actually show up as 25 minutes on your calendar. If you schedule an hour with me, it'll show up as 50 minutes. And the whole point of that is so I can
Yeah.
have breathing room. And that's actually become a standard across the entire organization. It's no different with text. If they take 2 minutes to document and they have 8 minutes to go breathe and walk around and go do something else, I'm still 100% good with it. Like that is the point.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they especially front facing help desk, like client facing help desk, that's a hard job. That's a really hard job. You know what I mean? Like you
I
don't always have
do.
happy clients
It's
you're
tough.
talking to. It's I mean,
And
neither Matt
like,
nor I want to do it, right?
I've seen environments where, someone will, you start giving crap to a tech for not putting in their 5 minutes of admin time for going to get coffee. Like, come on.
It's like, come on, dude. Like, these are people, and especially living at home, like, part of the benefits is like you can get up and go to the kitchen, get up, go check the mail. And I was reading some health articles recently between standing desks. We've had standing desks forever. Um, so if you watch me long enough, you see me play with my desk here, put my arm up, and that kind of thing.
Mm,
But apparently, the current studies state that standing all day isn't really any better than sitting all day. What's more important is every 30 minutes or so getting up and going and walking. And it could be a very minor pace, but just getting up and
yeah.
walking for 5 minutes every 30 minutes is far more important. So, I'm not saying that's why we did it that way. I'm saying it's a benefit of it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and we encourage
Um,
it. We encourage it
so
100%.
I have one more point on what you said, and that is a good reminder because I didn't realize this early in my career. Um, meeting like calendar invites are not just for meetings. Like
Yeah. Oh,
the
yeah.
hard
Mhm.
scheduling stuff that you're supposed to do is just as valuable. And I see texts all the time with like 1 hour scheduled in the day because they only have one meeting and a long to do list,
And then you get to the next day and it's, "Oh, I didn't get a chance to do this thing because
right?
it
Like
wasn't scheduled." It
hard
wasn't.
schedule things to do. I know it seems obvious to probably most people watching, but like day one, when you walk into the IT world, you just don't realize that.
Well, and that's the genesis of, "Oh, what do you have doing today?" "Oh, I only have 1 meeting." And then you get to the end of the day, "Oh, I'm swamped. I've been back to back and I haven't finished all the stuff I wanted to do." How could you? You had a 12-point, like, item list that each one was an hour, and you had a 10-hour workday, and you still had a 1-hour meeting already scheduled. You had no chance.
Hmm.
Um you know, we see it because we're already later in our careers. And I know I have, I'm sure you've had to delegate things from time to time. Part of delegating is learning at what can I do, what can I accomplish personally, and what can't I? Because now that becomes not something I should delegate. It means something I have to delegate so it gets done on time. Right. But you can't know that if you don't schedule yourself.
Which is
So,
a difficult thing when you start managing. And it's like,
oh,
I
yeah.
can do everything. What do you mean? Like, no, you can't.
Well, you can do everything. And to be fair, especially in the beginning stages of management, you can probably do the job better than most of your underlings, um, at least faster for sure, and that's an experience thing. And then it
Hmm.
goes the other way, and then we've been in management too long, and we're nowhere near as good as our technical staff. But for that beginning, the hard part is not I can do it faster. It's I can do it faster, but it doesn't matter. They have to do it. And sitting and waiting when you know you could have had something done already, that's the worst part of moving to management, in my opinion.
You have to like resist that urge to push them out of the way and start typing it yourself.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a difficult adjustment. It's
I'm
one of those.
curious for you, and actually, since we have David in the chat, David's an expert on this too. Oh, I just lost Matt. This has been happening on Restream lately, and I apologize, guys. This is not Matt doing it. This happened yesterday on Tech Bar too. Restream has been just kicking off hosts every once in a while. It happened on the Pitch It event yesterday with Sean
Interesting.
too.
We better
It's a
hire
Restream
someone
thing.
to investigate this.
Should hire some technical staff and maybe I don't know, a production company that's good at this. Um, oh, thanks, Logan. My Tech Bar tour T-shirt from last
Okay,
year.
that is a pretty
Uh,
cool shirt.
Thanks. This is Juan did this Juan Marcos, and on the back it actually has all the events we went to in 2022.
Oh,
Like
nice.
like a road tour thing. Yeah, I'll put it up in the chat, the link to it. Actually, since we have David here from Helped, and I'm curious as to your opinions. What was your How did you do schedule and resource planning? So, like I said, I do it by time and skill based. How were you scheduling staff? How were you accounting for how much staff you needed before you said, "Let me grow this"?
Man. Um,
It's a hard one too. I just put Matt on the spot. So,
right. I'll be honest. We tried multiple different things, and I'm not sure we ever were fully satisfied with it. Mostly, it ended up being utilization over a period of time. If we saw that over, I think it might have been 3 months or maybe a little bit longer, but over a long period of time that we had very high utilization and high ticket backlogs, and that they started to impact response time, That was the signal. You know, it really was the response time that did it, right? So if something was sitting for too long because nobody could get to it because they were working on other things, that was a key indicator for us that we needed more staff, assuming it went on for,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, a time, not just like a week or two.
And resource utilization, that's pretty standard fare. I mean, most
If
of
I didn't
the
say that, I'd be disqualified myself. That's like the one you have to look
100%.
at.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You would have been like, "Matt Topper doesn't." Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. You know, and all the PSAs have ways to do that. I will say one of the things I didn't pay too much attention to in the beginning, and I learned very quickly, um, your tech's hourly cost, their salary, is not your full burden rate. Figure out what your burden rate is, and don't be scared of overestimating. That's the point. You know, your insurance, for those that don't know what burden rate is, um, your cost to carry them, right? Whether it's
Mhm.
the tools they use or the benefits you're paying into them or whatever. Every employee has usually has like 2.5x, 3x, whatever their salary is. Um, Obviously, over 100 grand, that's a little different. That metric's a little different, but under 100 grand, 2.5 to 3x is pretty fair as far as full burden rate. I see it as low as 1.5 times with the amount of benefits that companies are offering today. And I'm proud to say we offer very good benefits. That cost just goes up and up.
Mhm.
So, you know,
Mhm.
look at it, see what it is. And plus, maybe help your clients understand the burden rate for their employees, right? If we're saying we're going to charge per client, those of us that are charging per client, not per endpoint's a different conversation, but per client, then teach your clients to understand the burden rate. Say, well, yeah, you're adding another user. It's 225 from us, but their burden rate is this. And that 225 is not going to seem like that big of a deal if you show them the full burden rate. So
Right.
let's see
Just
what
help
David
them
says.
find it, because if you go in
Yeah.
and, like, start giving them numbers like it's a marketing paper, you lose all credibility instantly.
100%. And that's no different than we were talking about the audit, right? If we want to dovetail back to an earlier conversation, well, we're not doing the work for them. We're showing them where the data is. We're getting the data for them so they can make the decisions. We're advising them, but we're not ultimately it's on the owner. We can't decide what the burden rate's going to be. We can't decide what to do with that information. We're just
Like, you
trying to
ever
be
see
helpful.
those websites that show, like, a put your quantity in, we'll show you how much money you can save?
Mm.
Like,
Oh yeah.
don't do that.
Oh, come on, man. And then put a Coinstar at their office and you know, yep, the help bros are here. Yeah. David was calling me out for 50% admin time. I had to go back and justify myself. So but that's good though. That's the point, right? Get all of the input from the community. And I will say I was that jerk in the beginning. Like, you have to do ACE. Like, why are you charging for endpoint? Why are you charging for like and then I realized, okay, there's justifications for different methods. You know what I mean? Not my way of doing things, but you got to respect it. Um,
Now, I would like to hear the 50% admin rate in the MSP world justification. That would be a tough sell, I think.
it on the it would absolutely be a tough sell. It depends on how you do things. I would say this is actually Dean is a perfect example. He came from many years of MSP, of all sizes of MSP, because MSP got acquired twice. Um, And so he was one of the ones he was on my ass about time, like time tracking. Um, because we already have set standards as to how long tickets should take, I don't care how long they actually work the tickets, other than making sure they're within our SLOs. So I don't care if a tech worked 10 minutes on this client's ticket and 15 minutes on that client's ticket. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter because we understand our costs going into in a per endpoint design. But that was one of the things Dean fought me on in the beginning of like, how do you not track time? How do you not do this thing? Because in the MSP world, I can't imagine a world where you couldn't, right?
Yeah.
It's different
Yeah, you
businesses have
have to.
different models. Um, but like I will say there's probably between burnout and maybe I'm overly gracious on the time, there could be somewhere in the middle, right? Maybe 25%, 20% admin time, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. I've only seen stuff. You know when I see stuff like 50, when it's like the service manager is still a little bit technical and works a couple of tickets, that kind of thing. Um,
yeah.
Nobody who's primarily technical or support client facing would really be at a rate that low.
Yeah. Actually, I should clarify this. So I agree 100% with this. Don't use admin as just a dumpster bucket. The easiest way to tie that back into us is we have unlimited PTO. We launched that a couple months ago at this point. Not probably less than 90 days. We launched unlimited PTO. We still have, when you put in for your time off request, we still have sick time, vacation time, PTO. We still have those things for tracking how the time is being used. It doesn't change that they just have unlimited balance. No different with ACE. It doesn't matter if the client's ACE. You still want to document what types of work you're putting into it or how much time you're putting in if that's your metric, because that's going to educate you on who do I need to train up, who's my noisy clients, that kind of stuff. The data is very important, no question. I think Dean's talking about there are, help me, in the managed world, not I'm not talking about on tickets. There's admin time. That's a separate time entry,
They're called
right?
charge codes in
Charge
manage.
codes. That's what I was looking
Yes.
for. Yeah, and that is a standard thing that at the end of the day, some MSPs have the tech go in and clean up their days time entries and add an admin charge code in there for the remainder of the time, so they have their full utilization. That is a method. It's not a method I ever did, but I absolutely understand the reasoning for it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
supposed to be stuff that's not accountable to anything. The other thing I
yeah,
would say with this is make sure to put yourself in as a company in your PSA and charge yourself when you do internal work.
yeah. Yeah, and we do that. I will say we do, whatchamacallit, we do, so we have our CSE department is our tech department for in-house, um, and every request we do still gets tagged as a ticket when it's an OIT ticket. So we're still tracking all those requests. We know exactly how much time is being taken. We know how much time our platform engineers are spending on solving OIT problems versus, you know, regular problems. Um,
Yeah.
that accountability, and I think that goes back to what Dean's saying, that um it doesn't matter what you're tracking as long as the accountability is there. Figure out what's
Yeah.
important to you, figure out how to track that way, not just for managers, for the employees too. I'm a big fan of self dashboards so you know where you stand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
payroll
And
wrap. Yeah.
it's nice to be able to go back and say, full admin time is really kind of, without calling it that, but kind of like doing nothing, as opposed to I spend time automating something or spend time writing a script or something that's not chargeable
Yeah,
to a client necessarily. The admin time is really like I was fixing my timesheet or something like that.
right. Yeah, it's administrative stuff. I realize I didn't document this and I gotta go or I have to put a time off request or some nonsense.
Yeah.
Don't take time off. It's MSP. Nobody gets time off or vacations.
Right.
Um, yeah, you don't want to hear me talk about those things. I have very strong opinions on the only purpose of your job is to support your personal life, in my opinion. Um,
We do
yeah.
now. I bet if you asked each of us when we were techs, we would have said, forget it.
Oh, in the
Don't take any
beginning,
time
yeah,
off.
totally different. Totally different. Um, I look at like when I was a tech, I used to laugh about it because as I can almost track my evolution of my career to how much gear I took with me at 2 conferences, or I took with me out on the road when I left the house, right? When I was a tech, I had a backpack, I had a laptop, maybe an iPad, like, I had dongles, I had my CD book, or my USB keys, or my iOD, or whatever I was using at the time, and I absolutely like, I could go to a ticket even if it was a Saturday I was going to get a haircut. I could still work a ticket if I need to. And to get out of the mentality of like going to conferences and still having to carry around a backpack with all that crap with me, like it was really hard to get out of that, that technical mindset.
You
Um,
carried like the MSDN binder around with you.
yes. Yeah. I might still have that here somewhere. They had the most beautiful discs. I mean, because they had that holographic
Yeah,
stuff
they
on
look
the top
good.
of the
And there's
disc.
some nice CD binders too.
Yes, they were really good stuff. It's stuff I would keep even though I don't have a single CD today, so it's kinda no point. Um, yeah, it's, what's your cost of internal support? Oh, here's a good question from Dustin. What's your cost of internal support? Do you need to hire a full-time person for that role? So we have a full-time team for internal support. Between onboardings, remember we're hiring, even though we're small, we're still hiring 1 to 2 people per month. Onboardings take a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
Um And yes, we are starting to get into roofs, so I don't want to hear it. But onboardings take a significant amount of time. There's always stuff that goes up, especially with, we have under a little under 50 people that are fully remote across 5 continents or 4 continents. Um, there is support that's needed, whether it's their ISP is screwing up, or a dock is screwing up, or some laptop went bad, or there's an update that didn't apply properly. It's definitely, there's internal support. I would say probably after 20 people, you probably need at least one person just for internal platform, like full-time dedicated to that. If you're smaller, whoever your RMM admin is, like whoever's,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be a dedicated RMM admin. I'm just saying that person has those skills already. So if you have a technical person on your team that's doing the RMM admin, somebody has to be doing your RMM PSA admin, even if it's not a dedicated role. That person already has skill sets of how to handle your internal org. And that's a nice career progression if they want it. Um,
Yeah,
and
when you
for us,
get
we
big, you
also,
need a department for sure.
yeah, I don't think you need a department. We started it because, again, as a service provider, we have very significant platforms.
Yeah.
We have a good size footprint. So we have different needs, and it made sense for our core services engineering, for our platform infrastructure security, to be the same team as our internal support. It kind of just, the skills all melded together. Um,
Yeah. It's just
yeah,
a
we need
scaling
that.
question. And you eventually will separate out most likely
Oh yeah,
client stuff and internal. It's just you don't have the resources to do that until you reach a certain size. And what that
yeah.
size is different for every org based on how complex your systems are.
Absolutely. And it makes a nice career progression. Like if you're helping your techs plan out, I personally believe a tier one shouldn't be a tier one more than 2 years. Um, Now, to that end, we just hired a guy that is a career tier one. He's a little bit older than me. That is his chosen profession in life. He likes it. You know what I mean? And, so good for him. We had that at the police department too, where we had cops that wanted to be street cops for their full 30 years. And to me, that sounds like a slow death, but to each their own.
Everyone's got different things. The one when you're a tier one, you go home and your work doesn't follow you home. Like
Yeah.
that part is nice.
It shouldn't follow you home. Because we have a lot of people that are accountable. It shouldn't follow you home. Yes, and to be a career person in one of those roles, you have to be able to disconnect like that. If not, you get burned out. But my thing is 2 years and you should be progressing your career, and not everybody wants to be help desk for the rest of their life.
Right.
So that's where our CSC team comes in, our DevOps, our security, that's all rolled up in the CSC side. Um, when we were smaller, we had an alignment tech whose job was keeping tools aligned for clients and us. Eventually, that morphed into an internal support department. That's a nice progression. I like that. Um, and that's in line with what I'm saying. Like your RMM engineer is going
Yeah.
to have those skills.
Just separate the
Um,
accounts so that the impact of an account compromise is smaller, even if it's the same person.
no, everybody's global admin, man. We already talked about that. That was
Right.
oh, I just saw the time too. All right. Job architecture. I
Oh,
want to
we're
show everyone
over.
how to go from day one to CTO. So that's a talk I submitted for GeekCon last year. Adam Wolford took it over, made it a panel. Very cool. I may submit it again this year to GeekCon or Rejection Con, of help desk to CEO or help desk to C-suite. Not everybody wants to be CEO. The reason I say CEO is because there are some significant questions you need to decide early if you really want to go down the CEO path. And the reason I say that is not to help you get to the CEO path. I mean, there are significant questions you should ask that will be disqualifiers. You're gonna be like, I never want to do that job. And it's good to figure
Do
that
you want to
stuff out
sit in
early.
meetings all day and deal with budgets? Because it's a management role,
I can't tell you the last CLI I logged into, and I desperately miss that. Like, you can't imagine.
right?
I just don't get the benefit. I don't get the time for it. There's some stuff like new tools and I have a list of 20 different low code, no code app development tools I'm looking at that I'm dying to spend time in. I just haven't had the time to do it. Um, and remember, if you got into this job because you love technology, realize if that's your goal, you're gonna progress to the point where you're not gonna be doing any technology. And even worse, you're gonna have to hire somebody to do the thing you're already good at. So these are questions you need to consider in advance. We just hired a CTO. Kevin Dukevich started with us a couple months ago as my CTO. You know how much it hurt me to hire a CTO? You know what I mean? I'm a
Right.
CTO. You
I
know how
know
much it
exactly
hurt
what you
me?
mean.
But like, you have to do it, you know? So I think if the techs looked at it in the beginning, early days, and saw some of that stuff and had those questions and answered them, they'd be better prepared for where they want their career to go, which is the real point of it.
Yeah. I would say it's not a bad idea to take a page out of like the Microsoft book and have separate defined tech and management paths. One,
Yes.
just to
Yeah.
do it, and two, to really set the expectation that these are different jobs. The penultimate technical job is not CTO. It's probably like solutions architect or
Yeah.
something like that.
One of those dirty solutions engineers.
Yeah.
Those sales engineers. That's like, if you think vendors are hated, sales engineers, oof, that's a
Yeah,
hell of
either
a
that or
career.
like hyper specializing in something like to the point where you
Yes.
fly around the country fixing the 14 instances of it.
See, that's what I grew into before I went the executive route, and I really love that. That's my happy place. When I get consulting gigs for stuff that I know there's like maybe 5,000 people on the planet that could answer these questions, that's fun for me. That also happens very, very, very rarely, um, which is why they're so special. And I'm not going to lie and say I don't have a calendar link specifically for that, because you'll pry that from my cold dead hands. Um, I will be in heaven or the other place, still doing architecture. I promise. All right, let's see here. I worked with the guy that refused to move out of. I want to get through these questions and then we'll kill it because I know we're a little over time. I worked with the guy that refused to move out of help desk and was damn good at it. Uh, Mentor, my first job. Loved that he got to walk away at 5 p.m. every day and never had to work after hours. That's what
Yeah.
you said, Matt. I mean, there is a lot of that. There's a lot of happiness to that.
As long as it's a
Um,
conscious choice, right? And not because
yes.
they're not trying or not doing anything else.
Well, the easy thing to fall into, and what I try to prevent people from doing, is my first 10 years in, or maybe my first 8 years in, I was working till 7, 10 o'clock at night, midnight some days. And it took me a minute to realize, hey, dummy, you're doing this specifically so you can spend more personal time and have a better personal life. Like, what's the point if I'm going to work 14-hour days? Like,
Yeah.
I'm creating the problem I'm trying to solve for. You know what I mean? So, there's a lot to be said for just being able to disconnect. And I often say the only people that signed up for to be 24/7 are the owners. We chose that. Nobody on my staff should feel that way. Um, Keeping tools aligned, functional for clients is COGS, so I paid for him out of support budget rather than below the line. Yeah, that's something I think every executive should learn, especially every CEO. Learning above the line and below the line costs and revenue. Um, those are business accounting principles that I've seen exactly 3 MSPs talk to me about, Dean being one of them. Um, it's not a common thing for under 50% MSPs. I hate being CEO. If you want to be CEO, please reach out. I've made the exact same comments. I've told myself anybody that wants we did a CEO for a day a couple times. And universally every time it finished it was, I don't want your job. And I don't think that was just platitudes, because I heard them repeat it to somebody else later on saying how little they wanted my job. Um, which, sad. I love my job. There's a lot of benefits to it. Um, like, I do stuff like this and stuff
You
you
knew what
get to
you were
do.
getting into, though.
I did, and I chose to do this 9 times over. Um, some other stuff I'm choosing to do. So you were on Tech Bar last night. You guys were promoting the Canines for Warriors event. That's going to be the 5. Is it a 5K? Does it have a distance? Is it a 5K or what is?
It is so the run part is a 5K on Thursday, but there's also all of the the dog treat making and the other parts to that. So you don't have to run to support it. You don't have to run at all or walk or anything. We'll happily take your donations and you can stay at home.
Yeah. Yeah, and we got $1,000 donated yesterday. I don't have the link available to me right now. I'll make sure we put it in the show notes. If you want to donate, we're trying to get to what, $50,000?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
know there
that's
was a
a
number.
very high stretch goal, 50,000, but
Yeah,
that's the ultimate goal.
we can get there. You guys killed it with the beard shave last year at IT Nation. So
Yeah, it
um,
was a lot of
funny
fun.
that we went from shaving off all the hair last year to now we're getting animals that are covered in hair. Um, I think somebody at ConnectWise has a some little proclivity towards hair. We're not going to get into that. Um,
Not
but
on recorded camera, at least.
not on recorded camera. We don't want to get mad an HR violation. But seriously though, if you're going to IT Nation Connect next year or next week, come hit us up, hang out with us. We'll be doing the Canine for Warriors, both the treat making that I found out from Tech Bar are human edible. Um, but they're going to be for the
Don't
canines.
need all of them.
Yeah, we'll try. They're peanut butter, dude. So whatchamacallit, we're getting canine we're donating money to get the canines to give to the warriors. So warriors save the dogs save the warriors. It's an awesome who doesn't love dogs and
It
pets?
it it is. It's a fantastic organization,
Yeah,
and, I'm very happy that we were able to, turn our desire to, "Let's, like, go on a run and do something that's really meaningful and impactful."
yeah. And the tech bar will be there with a water table. So we will be there doing a hydrating tech bar versus supporting versus
So is that pre-run or post-run? Like, the guys who woke up hungover, can they get a,
I So you
pre-run?
know what? Maybe we should have a couple bottles of bourbon there for the guys that either were still drinking and just walked over. We were talking about picking some of those. You guys were talking about picking some of those up, or ones that just are need a little hair of the dog.
Yeah, there
We'll
you
play it
go.
by
Get
ear.
through
We'll
the
see what
run.
we'll see what the needs are. But definitely there will be after run celebrations for anybody not passed out. If you are passed out, we have Sharpies. Just warning you now. Um, Matt, you got anything between I mean, because you don't already have a packed week next week. Do you have anything going on later today or this weekend?
Yeah, so later today and this weekend, I'm doing everything that I meant to do while I was traveling the last 2 days. Uh,
Nice.
no,
Brother, I
so
did
obviously at
Scott
this
I did
point, it's just total crunch
yeah.
time for IT Nation.
Yeah, it's crunch time. I'm with you. I need a good 3 more days until IT Nation. Because yeah, I've been traveling nonstop as well. All right, what else do we got coming on? We actually have Pitch It coming up. It's not on here, but we're doing Pitch It at 1 o'clock. We're gonna be with Mark Aliyev of Thread and Matt Lynn, where we're going to be going with the Pitch It finalists. We have AI Roundup. Now ChatGPT makes podcasting easier, better than ever. Uh-oh, I think I'm getting replaced. We have 38 to 38 coming out today at 5 o'clock. And then MSP Dispatch was already at 10 o'clock and just before this, and we'll be there on Tuesday. And then we'll both be at IT Nation Connect. So hit us up. I'll
I'm
be there
looking
as of
forward to it.
Sunday. When are you getting in?
Monday.
Monday. So come hit us up, hang out with us, take care of some dogs with us, have fun. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
Thanks, guys.